From Kerma, it went to Napata. From Napata, it reestablished itself in a place called Merowe. And once it reestablished itself in Merowe, it existed for an additional, roughly an additional 1,000 years. Kush was known by its enemies as Taseti, which means the land of the bow. And that was a reference to the fact that the Kushite archers were known for being very skillful. They could put a bow and arrow right in the center of a person's eyeball from 300 yards away. They were sharpshooters. Today they would be snipers. They were feared and revered and loathed at the same time by the Egyptians. They were recruited by the Egyptians to be essentially secret service for the pharaohs. They were recruited by the Greeks to serve as mercenaries. They were recruited by the Persians to serve as mercenaries. They were recruited by the Assyrians. These brothers were bad to the bone. Taseti, the land of the bow. But they were deeply religious people. How they rose up after 500 years of being oppressed by Egypt is not by the bow. They were powerful and they were formidable, but they were deeply and profoundly religious. And Kemet and Kush shared the same belief in a god that was referred to as Amun-Ra. And in the intermediate period in Egypt that began somewhere around 1025 BCE, the priest in Egypt had become corrupt. And the central government had become ineffective. And because the Kushite kings from the 25th dynasty, beginning with a person by the name of Kashta, and going on to another king named Pianki, and perhaps the most celebrated and widely known Kushite king that was a part of this 25th dynasty was a person by the name, a king by the name of Taharka, which Taharka is actually mentioned in the Hebrew Bible because he came to the aid of Hezekiah, the king of Judah, when Assyria was trying to overthrow it. Kush is mentioned in the Bible both in terms of Moses' wife was a Kushite woman. In the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, if you're reading the King James Version, it says that he was married to an Ethiopian. But whenever the Hebrew Bible or the King James uses the term Ethiopian, it is a reference to anyone who's from Africa, particularly anyone who's of dark skin. So Kush is mentioned in the Bible in terms of Moses, the great deliverer and the great prophet of the Hebrew people, being married to a Kushite woman. So think about that. All of the lineage of Moses, which was quite substantial over time, were half black. But the first time that this name Kush is mentioned in the Bibles, in the 10th chapter of the book of Genesis, Kush is the grandson of Noah and the son of Ham. The name literally means black. Now, why is that important? Because I've done videos in the past when we were talking about Aksum, which I believe was I know for sure it was a mighty African empire. But there was some dispute among the people that actually watched the video whether or not it was a black empire. When it comes to Kush, there is no doubt, 100%, it was a black and an African empire. It's a symbol of strength. It is a symbol of resilience. It is, in my thinking, especially when we talk about what happened in 9000 BCE in a place called Nabda Playa, the astrological studies, the accurate measurements of the stars that were going on 9000 BCE among these black people, it is a symbol of the beginning of civilization itself. It is the most impressive empire that has ever existed in my thinking, and I'm not excluding Egypt in the total assessment. It, in my thinking, predates and outshines Egypt and probably was a parent civilization to Egypt. And we can talk about that more. There's so much that I can say about Kush, but I invite you to study this great empire, Kush.